Wonder how much more money can be thrown at failed foreclosure mitigation programs and other associated programs. I understood the chairman said that one of these programs is very popular with the cities. My guess is free money has always been popular for those who receive it, less popular for those who have to pay it, and the American people think they are paying enough in taxes. To me, the underlying language is just an extension of the whole idea that somehow you can tax, you can spend, you can borrow, you can bail out, and somehow sue your way into economic prosperity. The only effective foreclosure mitigation program is a job. And clearly, this administration, this Congress, has a miserable record on jobs. I don't know how anyone can brag upon the fact that we have 9.7% unemployment, highest in a generation. So if that's in somebody's talking points to brag upon, I suggest that maybe they get another political playbook. Now, with respect to putting the assessment on large financial institutions, the chairman said, well, they bear responsibility for the economic debacle. Well, they do bear a lot of responsibility. But guess what? So does government. A government that strong-armed, incented, and cajoled financial institutions to loan money to people to buy homes that couldn't afford to keep them. And a number of our neighbors who chose to buy more home than they could afford and then expected their neighbors who didn't to bail them out. That has a large part to do with this. And we still have no clarification about amendments to reform the government-sponsored enterprises, which are at the epicenter of this crisis, which represents the largest bailout existent today, and yet we still have no clarification about whether or not such amendments can be offered. We're ignoring what the root cause of the problem is. But let's say, again, you believe that the banks need to be taxed, and I agree, they bear a lot of responsibility. I would say let them go bankrupt. That's a big question. That's a big difference between two approaches. One approach is bailout. The other approach is bankruptcy. We admit there are improvements that can be made to the bankruptcy code, but that's ultimately what this gets at. And that is the Democratic position is let's bail them out and let's tax them. Now, that makes a pretty good soundbite, but unfortunately, all of these assessments, do you really think, you think the American people think that somehow if their bank is taxed by the federal government, that their bank's going to make more credit available to them? You think the American people think that if their bank is taxed by the federal government, that somehow they will lower their interest rate? I don't think so. And we already know what the Congressional Budget Office, headed by a Democrat, says, quote, the cost of the proposed fee would ultimately be borne to varying degrees by an institution's customers, employees, and investors, period, paragraph. Again, a Democratic head of the Congressional Budget Office. Again, this is going to do nothing to ultimately help the problem, and that is we have to create jobs. It's paychecks, not welfare checks, that count for the American people. And now I'd like to yield the remaining amount of my time to the gentlelady from West Virginia.